Crikey! Can you guys hear me?
Good morning, good afternoon, and what day is it? Merry freaking Christmas. Let's see. Hey guys, Jimmy Kelly's here,
Oh,
which is hard to get him pinned down. He's so busy these days. Glad you're here, Jimmy.
yep, me too.
And
I'm
wow,
running.
look all the
I'm running on 4 hours of sleep today.
yeah. I just wanted to let everybody know that he's here, but he's also tired. So we're gonna do the best that we can. We have he's managing people from both sides of the pond, and then on the other side of the pond. So. We have early morning meetings to match UK with Australia, but anyway, we're awake and he's had less sleep than I have, but I'm really excited he's here because we're able to answer a lot of the questions that I just can't. And it does look like there's been other questions that have been answered on the spreadsheet. If you don't have access to the spreadsheet with the frequently asked questions, please go ahead and request access and add your questions there because they're going to get answered over time. So. It's down.
Yeah, we're getting. Yeah, there's definitely some good questions coming in on the sheet. Um, does anybody want to ask a question on call that we can walk through?
Kyle, do you have any live questions that you want to expand on? I know you're asking me a very interesting question this morning. One of the things that he was asking, which was quite interesting this morning, there was a specific keyword that I'm pretty sure is an entity, but it doesn't show up as Wikipedia and it doesn't show up on trends, but it does show up on Wikidata, which was, which was post freebase. And
Well,
then
we could
Wikidata.
go.
Mhm.
Yeah, we could go into that. Let me get
Well,
my.
that's what we wanted to know is if it comes out of Wikidata, it's still an entity, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Okay.
lots of sources that they pulled from the seed set, right? So
Awesome. Yeah.
we will introduce you to something different today, just
Excellent.
based on that question.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm going to move some stuff around here. Well,
Make
maybe.
sure we can. You're gonna try to show your screen.
Yes. Brain's not working today.
You're all right. Take the pace that you need. It's been a long day. You just back engineered directories, rebuilt a company. The list goes on.
Which screen do you guys see?
You see the blue water looks like like a lake with a background, a sun background,
Well, that's not great.
and your mouse moving around and all your secret documents and your decryption keys and hacks to the entire mainframe.
We should show them the classified testing folder.
You actually should. Is the stuff still good in there from 5 years ago? I guess you keep adding to
Yes,
it.
there is some good stuff in there still.
Oh, yeah,
So
crack it
why
open.
can't
Book
this isn't
Christmas
letting
bonus.
me this isn't letting me change my view option for some reason.
Um,
So let me
so we
see.
should
Let me
not.
see if I let's see if we can move this. Maybe it's only pulling the main. Can you see Google Trends?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me move some stuff
Yes.
here.
Yeah, you're good.
Apparently, it's only looking at it as one monitor today.
That's the cleanest I've seen your desktop in years.
Technical difficulties.
Okay, let's make
Okay.
sure that everybody's in the room. It's kind of a holiday. Yeah, we got about half the people here, maybe a little bit more. That's good.
Show the black hat link. There's only one black hat link. All right. So in today's lesson, we'll just cover some Q&A because there's not a lot of you on today, so could be the holidays going on. But I was going to intro you to some other things, right? So
Got to we are recording, right, Jimmy? Just to make doubly sure because we're definitely going to want. Oh, yeah, we are. Never mind. Sorry. Go ahead. You're good.
Okay, so I want you, did we show them any of the ecom type stuff yet? I don't know if they did.
Not a lot. Like we just really started introduction, on the basic overview when we went through your slideshow.
Okay, so if we come into here, we're going to show you an example. So this is a client site, right? So if you do anything to it, I will come after you personally.
Yeah, no joke.
But for teaching lessons, this is a good place to start, right? So what we see over here is another knowledge panel, right? So knowledge panels, how are knowledge panels created?
That's a question for the group, right?
Oh yeah,
Daniel
like
says
I know the
traffic.
answer.
Daniel says traffic. Paul says traffic. Joel says traffic. I think they
Good,
should be more
good.
specific. Wade Cockfield
Okay.
says traffic. They should be
So
more specific, I think.
what kind
Yeah.
of traffic? Traffic through a valid entity, search traffic, group of entities with traffic, local traffic, G to G, brand
Brand
search.
search.
So with this type of thing, these are created based on either your brand or they're created based on the activity on the location, right? So there's some basic things, some additional basic things that you should be aware. When you look at these types of listings, right? So you can see when you run the system on some of this stuff, right? So you'll end up with the Amazon page ranking. Here's their Walmart page. Here's their website page. Here's their Pinterest page, blah, blah, blah. Right. So this is all associated via the entity. Now, another place that you can look for where an entity comes in, if you look for beard growth, you might see our client here. Right. So when you click on this, this is an additional thing that you can see. So this code right here generally is what's created when Google starts picking up traffic. That's why Google Trends is another place you like to look, right? Simply when you see a KP, because you got to remember that any document on the web can have its own knowledge panel, right? It's not limited to only Wikipedia or Wikidata or Freebase or any of the other stuff. Like those are still defined entities, but they were what they used to teach Google's AI with, right? So this goes back to 2012. Now, another way that they find it is, you have authorities. So a lot of times with GMBs, if we do some other types of searches, it's the same kind of thing, right? So you search for this and you've got a KP here. It's just a different type of knowledge panel. And you'll see this throughout the web for a lot of things that get enough traffic. So to produce that traffic, that's why your optimization comes into play, right? So out of all the ones that we do, generally the traffic system can tilt it towards a brand and a keyword, right? But the goal or what really comes into play is why do they choose some things for the KP and not others?
So the question for you guys is, how do the knowledge panels get chosen over other things on that page? In this case,
Like
Amazon.
when you look at this knowledge panel here, you can see the different images and things that they've associated with it. But why didn't they choose like the Walmart page, for instance? Or why didn't they choose the website? Like, what is it about that knowledge panel that made it respond? Because there's many targets on the page. There's even the Pinterest down here. Matches entities closely, made of entities, traffic. So traffic did make this respond, but for instance, a fallacy that a lot of SEOs have is they believe that a keyword has to go with a specific URL. That's not the case in Google's landscape, right? There's many times what happens is if Google understands your entity, and we'll just push schema aside for a moment because you can define things with schema, but in this landscape, what are the elements that Google sees? How do they know that all of this is the Wild Willie's product, right? Because we got eBay here, we got Pinterest here, got their website, got their Walmart, and we've got their Amazon. What is it that they're looking at that made them understand that this is Wild Willie's? What were the 4 optimization points that we discussed in the previous webinar? What does Google read? URL, title, image, and you also have meta description now, right? So those are all the fields or the elements on the page that Google is looking at when they want to rank something. Now, when we push schema aside, how do they know that this is all the same product? It's all the same 4 optimization points, right? So anytime that you're not going to use schema, which you don't have to, if your titles match fairly closely, then Google understands that, right? I'll tell you another thing that happens in Google Search Console. That is not just your website metrics that you look at. That is anything that's associated to the brand. And we've done testing on this where I can go send traffic to an Amazon page and it will show up in Google Search Console. Or I can run it to a Walmart page and it will show up in the GMB, right? So how is that possible unless that's all connected? So one of my favorite things to look at is Google Search Console when it comes to how a brand, or generally we look at brands because it represents your core entity, right? So that's what's pretty interesting about the whole thing is Google understands the landscape based on the 4 optimization points without the schema, if they match. So when we understand this, right, let's take some principles of where a site might not do well, right? Because the goal is to set you guys up for success when you use the different technologies so that you understand that, okay, if you have something a little bit off, it's probably not going to work as well for you. So let's take a GMB, for instance. So if we look at the site title, and this is just ignore this and the parentheses around it. This says Jimmy Kelley Digital. And if we come down here, it's also Jimmy Kelley Digital, right? So the importance between this and this is generally you're going to have the same location, which is the website you hook up, but you're also going to have the same brand or the same title, right? So when these things match, you don't have to have a schema to understand it. Google just simply knows that that's the brand. So one of the things we don't ever do is usually put keywords into the GMB title because it's not the brand. Now, some of you may have put keywords into the GMB title, but why does it respond?
Exactly.
It responds because that keyword has had a lot of traffic associated to it, right? So it's responding based on those rankings. So what I want you guys to start doing is you should not look at Google as a search engine, but more of a PPC engine. So how does Google make money on PPC? It's impression based, right? So when you introduce impressions, so to go back and simplify. So I just type this in, and each one of these links or web pages, however you want to look at it, just got one impression, right? Now, as the impressions raise, what does that do to the PPC? How does Google measure how much one of your PPC keywords should cost? That's going to be based on the impression rate, right? So generally, the higher impressions you have means the more search is happening around those terms. Now, pre-update of a core update that happened sometime in September, and one that recently happened, I think, just a little bit ago, they've changed something very important. So prior to that, you could use impressions to really push the needle on a site, right? So you could push it and it would rank the crap out of that thing. And we've tested it because I've run like 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, searches a day just to see how it responds. So getting to go through that testing, you kind of got to understand how Search Console reacts in that environment. What kind of impressions? I've tested basically anything you could possibly think of. It's just the process. I just get very bored, and when COVID hit, you just end up behind a computer all alone, petting a cat. No, I did have a cat, but
Demi, no, it's a different one.
But let's think about what Google has just changed, right? So as impressions go up, Google reacts in kind. So what you'll see happen is web pages will start ranking for other keywords. So if impression value is high or high enough, what happens is Google Search Console actually, if you look at it, it'll start ranking you for keywords you're not even optimized for. Why do they do that? Like if I'm optimized for beard growth supplements, why would it rank me for, some other weird term that's not even optimized on the page? What does that do for Google? Why would they rank them for other terms out of the blue?
There's a couple of guesses here.
So entity keyword bucket, you can control that. Falls under the category, testing the relevance in the bucket. But think about this. Yeah, Daniel's got it. Said more PPC opportunities, right? So what would dictate those PPC opportunities? Could it be other people that are specifically buying specific terms on Google? And maybe by taking a page that's getting some activity, if they randomly rank them for different keywords, what happens as it's on page one of Google? It then increases their impressions, which allows them to charge more on the cost per click for people that bid on those terms, right? So if you think about Google from this standpoint, a lot of the stuff that happens with traffic in the natural environment starts to make a lot of sense, right? They are pigeonholed to shareholders, right? Yes. And those people are greedy. They just want money. And so they have to perform, right? So a lot of things that they end up doing are geared towards increasing that value. Because if you remember back in the slideshow, it's an old calculation, but a lot of it has to do with new content. So let's talk about what happens now that you kind of have a grasp on impressions, what is happening in that environment. So in that environment, I'm a SEO sitting in some class. I'm like, oh, content is king. Sweet. We need to build more content. And Google says to do so, so we should do that. So we're going to go out and we're going to make all kinds of different content. We're going to do like 3 pages a day, 10 pages a day. We're going to spend like 10,000 a month on this stuff. So what happens as it indexes? What have you guys noticed when you index a page? What happens to that page if you get it right? goes to page 1. It ranks well at first, shoots up, then comes down a little. So what's the benefit when they first shoot that up? What is Google doing? They're testing the page, right? They were trying to see, they want people to produce content because as it indexes, they can pop that on page 1 for a couple of days, or, 2 to 7 days is usually the average before it might drop out for the term you optimize for. And so during that time frame, though, they can lift the impressions. And what you'll see in the Search Console, if you watch it, or you'll start getting ranked in high positions for keywords you're not even optimized for. They're trying to move your page to help boost their impressions where people are buying keywords, is essentially what's happening. So when we think about it from that standpoint, I always lose my train of thought. Yeah, they're additioning the page, right? So now let's think about the update that just happened, right? So we know that impressions increases the value to Google. So what are they really looking at now as far as a ranking position? Like, do you guys know the update that happened recently? What did they do to desktop search? There's got to be one of you that reads some of this stuff.
Yeah, I think we dropped it in the Skype room. I don't know if you guys saw it. So,
Thank you, Bradley. Endless scroll. Now, when you think about the infinite scroll and what's happening with a keyword search, now all searches are created equal, right? Like if you go, before it was just on mobile, right? So you get on mobile, you do a search, you could just keep flipping up on your phone and it would just scroll forever. But what happens now that they've changed this landscape on desktop is now when a search is performed, all the pages, whether you see it or not, get that impression. So what did they really shift the metrics to for ranking? They shifted it to clicks. It's your click-through rate, right? So click-through rate is the new king of, ranking highly in the Search Console, or in the SERPs. So now what happens with a click, right? So clicks are created and counted separately, right? So what happens is, we'll just go through a scenario. So the search happens, which, okay, there was a search for this particular keyword, and then they go to, let's just pick a random whatever. We'll pick the website just for fun and see what's on there. So I just clicked it again. Now, something else happens on this page with the click, and this is what kind of surprised me. So you don't just get a click when you click the URL. What happens is the cumulative impressions of the backlinks done on the page get counted with that click. So it will actually increase your impressions based on how many links you have on here, right? So when you go in and look at where do they have links, like on this one, this is kind of laggy right now, but let's say that this was the page we clicked on. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16. So there's 16, and then 17, 18, 19. You would get those impressions all count from just clicking on this towards this page. Okay, now this is important to understand because there is also something called impression burn. Impression burn, once your CTR gets too low, will cause it to not rank any further. Does that make sense? Is everybody following so far? So,
does everybody understand impression burn? Just put a yes. Okay. And Clint, I would just
so
add that
impression burn,
okay, go ahead.
let's say that you rank for a keyword. Let's say nobody ever clicks on your site, right? Let's say that you did the optimization right, it pops to top 3, and nobody clicks anything. But what happens is that page sits there in Google and searches are performed and nobody's engaging with your website. Your impressions keep stacking, but your CTR goes down. So in that environment, if your CTR doesn't stay at a certain percentage, then you lose your rankings, even if you're correctly optimized. If that makes sense. Is everybody following so far? Give me a 1 if you're following, 2 if that does not make enough sense. I try to explain things in a way that is understandable.
I think you're doing pretty good.
So now with that, it's important to take this to our optimization strategies, right? So our optimization, we talked about titles, right? So what is a title? Your title is simply the name of your document. Drew, can I pick on you for a minute? What was that URL that you showed me earlier? I'm going to teach you guys something very important with titles.
Excellent.
And more than likely, this is what's causing the problems that you're having. It was the roofing example, Drew, but I don't remember the URL.
Where are you, Drew?
Well, it was something, yeah, it was roof repair, roof something. He's going after some keyword, I don't remember what. Does anybody have any site that is not doing well? Give me any URL. Any homepage.
Now they're rolling in.
I would do it in Polish, but I don't know how to translate it. You just have to try this on yours. Now, let's go back and think about how these two interact, right? Because all I focus on is title and URL for the most part. Images can become a problem if they also have titles associated with the images. So the one rule is you can't repeat a title, right? So anchor texts are also titles. You cannot repeat these or you will run into Panda. And most of the sites have been hit over the past 2 core updates. This is what they're dealing with, right? So, and they're geared for SEOs. Like, they hate us. They want you to produce quality content, but they still hate us. What's the keyword on this, Ben? Or one that you're struggling with on it, I should say.
Roofing Twin Cities.
Roofing Twin Cities. So remember this search, because I use this all the time because it's just simple, right? It breaks it down to things that we can see. So let's take a look at this. What do you think could be causing issues on this from that perspective? I also want to do a different example too, because this will make more sense. Anyone else have a URL to pull up that's not just images and URL? Where is Drew?
Where is Drew? He disappeared.
Yeah, that's it. He's cut off.
You're cut off, Drew.
Drew, what's the URL for that roofing site we were looking at earlier? Can I use it as an example? Because I want you guys to see this when you look at the SERPs.
There it is.
And we were looking at the home page, right? The root, not the sub.
Now everybody's throwing in URLs. Practice makes perfect.
Right? So we're going to do this so you guys can see it.
Typo in your operator.
I'm not spell that right.
Yeah, SITE. Just the operators mixed around. Site colon.
Yeah, I have it on there. G. Oh,
You have a typo with your operator.
Okay, let's try this. Okay, I'm obviously spelling this wrong. Bear with
Your
me for a
operator,
moment.
Jimmy.
This is what happens when you're tired. See, now I don't
Can you
even
see
see
your
that.
Can you see your operator?
Okay.
Can you hear me, Jimmy?
Yeah, I can. Oh, it is the operator.
Your operator. Yeah.
No, thank you. That's a good catch. See, when you start doing entities, you start doing things, everything's backwards.
You've been up for
Because you
24
can
hours too,
invert
so.
too. It's like FLA. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Now this better still be up. But this is a good lesson to learn. Okay, here we go. Now, hopefully you didn't change this before. We don't want to look at that. We're looking at the root, I believe. Okay. So in regards to, in this instance, we're doing roofing. Now, I want you guys to look at the SERP a little bit differently than what you have previously. So when we look at this, you have to understand that the optimization points, they're breaking it down per word. Because what are they trying to do per word? They're trying to assign it to vectors that are already assigned between two other points, right? So you have 1 point or 1 word, right? And this could go to 2 points randomly somewhere, right? So, or the midpoint. I'll try to use my notepad again too, just to show this, if it'll work this time. But when you look at just the words on the page, we need to understand what they're looking at, because since this is like a main optimization point, it's also important to know that this is the name of the document. And the name of the document can become an entity based on the traffic it receives, right? So now when we look at this, have you guys ever noticed any of the black hat people out there, like if you put a different entity's brand in and mix it with something else, that it just ranks? Like, have you guys ever noticed that? Yeah. Why does it do that? It's got search history on it. So when we put that in, it'll automatically respond in many cases because it's associating it to that other entity. So when you do like mixed brands with different keywords, if it's a partial of another entity, you can get that ranking pretty easily, especially in local spaces, right? So, but what you want to look for here is like, okay, we want to rank for roofing, but instead of looking at this as all one title, I want you to look at it from a one keyword perspective, right? So I just want you to look for roofing, right? And we know that this is the same website. So are we repeating roofing anywhere in our other documents or the other names of our documents? Just look at the SERP. You guys notice it anywhere, right? So I pause here because I like to make you look and think, right? So we're looking to see if this is the keyword they're after, right? Roofing. I just moved it. I apologize. Then if we look at this, we've got roofing here, and we've got roofing here, and we've got roofing here, right? So there's 3 pages right there that contain the keyword that we're after. So this is an issue. This is what causes Panda, unless you know how to structure it like exactly right. So when you look at this, how Panda works in today's environment is if you have a bunch of web pages or names of documents that they're trying to figure out, like, is this valuable to us or not? This could rank and get clicks. This could rank and get clicks. This could rank and get clicks. And what does Google do? it gets a Panda penalty. Typically, the more pages you have that are repeating a keyword in any of your titles, it suppresses them all, and they'll go all the way down to like number 78 or 76. If you don't have that much bad juju or too many repeated titles, then you're going to end up, maybe only getting to 7 or maybe getting to 8. You'll get in that cycle where you go from 7 to 12 and then cycle back around again. So these are things to pay attention to for sites that maybe have tanked for you recently over the past 2 core updates. So like a common thing that we would do as SEOs is we'd go in and we'll just talk about titles, right? Like I'm going to go after SEO. I'm going to go after best SEO. And we're not even going to like lowercase for entities. We're going to do best SEO company. Well, the problem with this is SEO, SEO, SEO. And if any of these get clicks, then that suppresses all of them. So you're not going to get your ranking that you're after. A better way to structure the page is slightly different. So what are the other types of titles that we see on a page? I'll tell you that in a minute, Bradley. So let's talk about, well, now I lost my train of thought. Okay. So you got to look at everything as words. So what are some of the elements that we see on a page, right? Like this is going back to old school, I don't know, writing or something, or language. Language arts, maybe that was the class. Okay, so let's say we do a title. What is a title, right? You know it can become an entity. Let's talk about what entities are before we go into this, because I want to make sure you guys are understanding this, because it helps you when you're optimizing something. When you have an H tag, because those are also subtitles, right? So when you have a subtitle, it is okay to use that inside of a page, right? So when we think about the name of something, like let's just do like shower, for instance. What is the name of this document? Type it into the chat. Yep, this web page right up here. What is the name of this document? Many of you have gotten it right. I'm just picking on people that don't. No, I'm just kidding. So shower is the name of this document, right? So when traffic is applied, they know that dash Wikipedia, that refers to the site it's associated with. However, shower is the actual name of this document. So if this got a lot of, if this wasn't a Wikipedia page, let's say this was something else. If it got a lot of activity and searches around this brand and the keyword and all that jazz, what would the KP look like? KP would look like shower, just like we're looking at in some example somewhere. Right? Like it's going to be right here. Oh, magically there's ads that come up. But where did they pull this title from? What entity does this belong to, now that you know that there's different pages associated in the SERP with this? Look at this carefully. This will be very common that you see, at least in e-com world. Doesn't belong to Amazon. Let's go see where the name of this document matches this KP. this looks like a pretty good match to me. What's the name of this document? It's going to be beard growth supplement, right? So this first part before the dash is the name of this document. This is just simply what site it lives in, right? Or the parent entity that it resides in, right? So they translate that to Wild Willie's beard growth supplement. That's how they do it, right? So much of this KP result ended up coming because of a result of their website, because that is the name of this document. So it's important to not overcomplicate the names of your documents, right? You don't do stuff like this. Let's see. Oh, I've got caps on. Oh, hold on a second. Right? So, and then let's just say that this was a web page for fun, like that. When you see instances like this, typically what they're reading is whatever's before the dash is the name of the document. But in this case, these mean or, right? So a pipe means or. So this would be SEO or internet marketing or global SEO dash brand. What happens if you go in and you're like, oh, I want to be the best global SEO company dash brand, right? You want to try and keep things as simple as you can when you go into optimization, because generally the keywords you're after need to match with the name of your document, right? So, but you need to stick to certain guidelines, right? The simpler you are is generally where the keywords are that you want to go. So, and plus also if you did this and you've got this up here, well, we've got repeat here, we've got repeat here, we've got repeat here, we've got repeat here. That's just prime example of Panda. Now, there's other things that people like to do that I see quite often. Is they're like SEO Austin, and then they go make pages, right? They go say they're gonna go to their blog and then be like, how to find the best SEO in Austin, right? Ding, 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 ding. That kind of stuff is what ends you up in Panda. So when you go through your websites, you need to make sure that you're not repeating a word. Give me a 1 if this makes sense. Give me a 2 if it's crazy talk. So this is why when you go into this space, we need to think about our vectors. First of all, before we go to the next section, does anybody have any questions on this so far? So let's try to help with some of these questions. So,
Yeah, not everybody's there.
oh, that's definitely, yeah, that's definitely keyword stuffing, right? Like you don't want to do that. Let's think about what an entity is. Maybe this will help on some instances. So when you think of a entity, how it's defined is a person, a place, or a thing, right? So a place can be a business, a thing can be a product, a person can be a person or an author, right? If we think about the proper name of an entity, we'll just use some name. We'll use Russ as an example, right? So if we take this can be some brand here. This is going to be, let's just say Russ. We won't even do the full name, but, right? So Russ Wright equals him. That is the person. That is the entity. Does it make sense to make other pages that are not the entity? No, we'll go back to that. I can see some people are struggling on some of this. So let's say that this is the entity we optimize for. Should we do this? And we'll just even do it like this, right? Like these are pages, these are titles on a website. So based on what you've learned for Panda, are we repeating words or entities in these titles? The answer would obviously be yes, right? We already did it here. We already did it here and here. So this is setting you up for Panda out the gate. Now, this will be fun. What's a better way to do this? Instead of making all these separate pages that set you up for Panda, what's a better way to do this based on what we know about the 4 points of optimization? We want to put these on one page, right? We want to do subheadings. Subheadings are important because they allow you to still talk about the main entity or the name of your page without triggering Panda, right? Like you can go back and change some of the stuff on your website and it usually will respond. You may have some URL issues, which we're going to go into, but a lot of the people that have been doing this are just bouncing back in the rankings for people I've helped so far. So if you have a keyword that you dropped pretty heavily for, go check and see what it is. It doesn't even have to be a keyword. It could be maybe you put the city in the homepage title, right? And you're putting that city in other places on your website. You got to remember, just think of it as if that term is repeating in any page title of my website, we've got an issue and you need to dedupe that. And we also want to make sure that we're being laser focused of the name we want to rank because we don't want to pollute it, right? Like, do you want to rank for SEO or do you want to rank for best SEO company in Austin, Texas? Like SEO is probably going to be better traffic for you than that other nonsense. So it depends, Daniel, for putting the keyword in your GBP. Like it can screw with your rankings because it's trying to place it towards another entity. So a common practice I like to do is make sure the GBP title matches your site title entity on your homepage or the site title you assign in the back of your website, right? We need to make sure that Google understands that this Google My Business is your website, is the same entity. The website is interesting because it's the only thing that a person controls. Like if you're someone that, even when you put your listing and verify it on Google, you don't own Google My Business or, that's just some place that you listed it on. It's no different than putting on Yellow Pages or some other site that you don't control, right? The only thing you control for your entity and for a brand is your website. So this is where you need to spend your time looking at your optimization. So a better way to do this is what I like to do is create H tags, right? So it's just a subheading of the page and you all see it. It usually is bolded as you go down the page. So it might be a little bit different text stuff and the bold is a little bit different, but you guys have seen it. If you don't know what it is, then please reach out and we'll clear that up for you. But wouldn't it make more sense if we created H tags? Like what if we did an H2 and we can do an H3, H4, right? Like you could do these with H tags and you go all the way down to 6, right? But the important thing is what I'm trying to rank for would be Wright or whatever keyword or whatever entity I'm trying to go after. I don't want to go after it. You know, we can't create the panda, so I need to eliminate that. So the best way to do this is to talk about these elements in a page, right? So, and this is, if you think about it, this is really how you kind of read normal quality content, right? When you read about a subject, like what are the best, like earphones or whatever of 2022. So we'll just go and pick one of these, right? But what you're going to see on here are these different headphones and kind of they talk about it. Does it make sense that these are on the best wireless earbuds? Yes, because you're talking about the different types that are in this optimization. And these people did it pretty good because we'll talk about that in a moment of how we utilize these for URL structure. Now, when we think about this, you really just want to put things that make sense that support the name of the document that you created. And that way you can rank for other combinations. So how I like to think about it is you're being very specific to Russ Wright foot. His foot still belongs to him, right? So you just don't want to be in position where you're making 2 Russ Wrights, if that makes sense. But you can talk about things about him within that page that you named. And this is anything before this dash is the name of it, right? So this is an easy way to go after saying the same thing. So if we think about this from entity and knowing that any page can become an entity based on traffic, which helps when you rank. If you did this, for instance, here you can start talking about those different things. So anytime you're not linking out from an H tag, you're fine. Anytime you designate something with a URL destination, you have to be careful, right? So if you're going to link over to that page, you have to be careful with the optimization of their page, which we'll go into, but not in this lesson. So in here, you could talk about, other keywords you want to do, like how to pick the best SEO. Or you might say internet marketing company or whatever, right? Like you're going to talk about other stuff that is in here, like social media marketing, right? So all of these can be what you want to be associated with the name of your potential entity. Yes, H1 can match title because it's kind of a default in a lot of CMSs. So I don't worry too much about the H1. My preference, when I like to do, is I like to invert stuff where possible. So like if I do my site title as best SEO, in my H1 I'll invert it and do SEO best. Just simple example. That's my preference. But this is kind of how to properly structure a page, right? So when you guys think about using the Localfy sites, you might be doing an entity, but you really want to get those keywords mixed into the products and services area so that you can get that relevance for the keywords that you want, right? So this is important to know because some of you will be like, well, I don't want to pick that because this is an entity. That's not my keyword I want, right? Well, that's fine. But you still want to rank. And the way we rank is matching that point to the center between the two entities. Now let's go. Let me backtrack for some of these questions.
Yeah, Douglas has been trying to get an answer to this for a while, about your shower head site, and he'd like to hear your answer, not mine, on it. Just expand a little bit more if possible.
Okay, let me find it here.
It is, I can read it to you if you want. Um, the showerhead site that used an example in the first, I think it was the last week or the before, he says every single city page repeated the phrase showerhead, capital S, lowercase head, on every page. Can you explain why that's allowed?
Because I am Jimmy. No, just kidding. Um, it's I don't know if you guys remember that Social Explosion interview. I
Yeah,
just laugh at it
social
every time.
your
I am
senses.
Sancho. um, the reason that is because you can use different characters, whether they be dashes or slashes or colons or semicolons or other things, because those are actually commands when Google reads the title. So they mean different things. So I can create uniqueness even though I might be repeating a keyword. I don't recommend that for you guys because I haven't taught that, obviously.
Yeah, and on top of that, my question to you is showerhead comes up on Wikipedia as a redirect and is also available on Wikidata. So the answer is not because it's an entity. That would not be the correct answer.
Yeah. So you just have to
Oh,
kind of,
no, I'm asking
and
you
that's,
because that's the answer I gave him. So the correct answer that the answer I gave him is wrong, correct?
well, part of it is when I pick showerhead, I'm creating the midpoint between two existing entities. And then from there, I'm using the geolocation to create the other points.
Right.
So in a sense, what I'm using is the city as my categorization and focusing the keywords, even though they're the same on each of them. Um, so that's not going to make sense for you
No,
guys just yet. We're just
not
trying to
without your,
learn basic.
yeah, because the answer involves your character, the fact that there's only four combinations of characters, right? And the character sets.
Yeah, those characters are designed specifically. That's why mostly you
Exactly.
guys have to focus on picking the right entities for the keyword buckets you want to rank for, right? Like that's your goal with using technology. There's a benefit of using Locify because as updates come out or we need to make changes, we can change that globally. So you don't have to necessarily worry about what character commands do what in a title. So, um, so I don't want you to necessarily just think about that from that perspective, because that's the benefit really of being part of the SEOMA group. So let's try to tackle a few of these other questions. Um,
Okay, good. Douglas is happy with that answer.
and you guys are, it looks like most of you are understanding what the name of a document is. It's typically what's before the dash, right? So it's not shower dash Wikipedia. It'll just be shower is the name of that document, right? So generally what an SEO will do, like let's just go look at it in the wild, for instance. Um, we still haven't come back around to that. So you guys know how to check this. Know how to check this, but let's just say we're going to go look for some keyword somewhere. We'll just do SEO for fun, since most people like SEO. So it's pretty interesting when you look at the different, when you break it down on a keyword level. I mean, Google obviously is cheating here, but it's also pretty interesting because generally, a lot of people like to optimize by making these big, long titles, right? But I like to simplify things just like Wikipedia does since it was one of their base seed sets. Like, why make a big, complicated, long title unless it's actually helping your click through rate, right? There's a reason why, when you see reviews and stuff, what happens on those documents. Like, even think about it from a local business perspective. Um, sorry, I'm on phone. Beard growth supplement treatment by Wild Willie's. How's that not getting penalized for keyword stuffing?
Yeah, I saw that one.
Because we like to keep the system on.
That's
They turn off, then they'll lose it all.
that's not an answer PJ wanted to hear. It's magic. No, all kidding aside, guys, I know. There's an active. Can I please make an insert here, Jimmy?
Oh yeah.
That was a great question, PJ, and I didn't answer it because it's because of what Jimmy just said. Also, it's part of our e-commerce product, and there are some variables. Even though he's choosing to show you a product knowledge panel, based on he was trying to just show the impression rules. There are a few things you got to be aware of with e-commerce that are a little bit more advanced than where we are right now. So great question, and it's because because technology.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that way we hold our clients captive because it's fun.
Yeah, and we'll get into that a little bit more when we get into our e-commerce stuff. I'm gonna lobby for you guys to know more about our e-commerce stuff after we get the basics. After if you're quizzed, you can break down the structure in your sleep on this stuff. Appreciate it.
So like you'll notice that some of these things might rank lower even though they may be on pretty strong domains, right? That's simply because it's too complicated of a name of a document, right? Like you guys see this kind of stuff all the time, like, I don't know, you've got Q&A type stuff, like what does SEO mean, right? These are kind of like sub-entities that they're searched for, right? They don't necessarily get machine IDs, but it's searched for enough where they create a question out of it. So anytime that you're dealing with a keyword that's 3, 4, 5 long, you can always do a flat silo, right? So if you want to rank for this, you just do brand.com, and a flat silo means you're just going one level deep, right? So what does SEO mean, right? Well, you wouldn't put the question mark in there, but you do it like that, and then you would just match that exactly. Right? That's all you would do. You can pump this kind of stuff out and just index it, and more times than not, it'll just go straight into the top positions, right? Because they're not that difficult to rank for, right? So what I mean by when it starts going to 3 and 4 deep, when you have like this and this, 3 and under gets competitive, 2 and under, these are where the money terms are, right? Because if you think about headphones, for instance, right? Like headphones is a pretty valuable term if you rank for it. It's tons of traffic because people search for it. It's a one keyword term, but as you break down the words into multiple points in a URL and the proper name of your document, then you can easily rank for stuff that's deep. Now, where we get into some other factors is when we need to do categorization, right? Because we talked about that with the clustering. So let me look at, let me see if I still have this open. One moment. Okay, so let's take some of these. I'll take one from the sheet. So I'm looking at line 32 for this instance. So do
Okay.
Then we'll do gooddoors.com/interior. If I misspell it, just know that that's what it is. You can look at it on the question sheet.
Right, that's number. Okay.
So these are different ways. I would guess that they're going after interior doors. Now, we talk about not being more than 2 deep, right? So what's the best case scenario to match the name of a document between these 3? Well, the best case is to name the document what the name of the folder is, right? So if you're only interested in ranking this, this would be the one that you would use. And you would optimize it like this. Now, does anybody notice a problem with this just in this one page? Brand and keyword. Yeah, we've got a problem, especially as they start putting dash good doors all over the freaking website. Because what are they looking for? Right? They're looking for, repeat. And because this is where EMDs can get you into trouble. So to answer a question previously, I'll show you a way around this. Just make it the word. You just take this, you put it here, and you capitalize the G. Done. Now they'll view this as a word and not get it confused with the keyword you're after. So hopefully that helps some of you where you may have geo or keywords in your root for some client site that asks you why you're still stuck on number 7 for months on end. You're like, I don't know, I built like 50 links to it. It's not doing anything. Don't fire me.
Kyle said he's doing that on some client sites that are EMD. Great call, Kyle.
So this is what you got to be cognizant of anytime you're dealing with, okay, good doors isn't necessarily there, but we're repeating doors in that scenario, right? So that's your solution on domains that contain that kind of stuff. Now, the other caveat to this, and this is why structure is important on a website, is they may sell exterior doors, right? So that can be slightly different. And we'll do some categorization stuff a little bit later on because I want to use the drawing board for that. So you can still name the document, right? Just keep it simple. Don't go into complex like using dashes and double dashes and slashes and pipes and all kinds of crap in your title. Just keep it simple and watch what happens to your website as you change it, right? Like be very specific on what that document is. Don't deviate, at least not right now. Just get this part down, right? We want to just go in and you can still name this the same that it is, right? You can do interior doors dash, just like that. You can still name this way, but this also allows you to, go outside of that because you don't want to repeat this, right? So same thing with URL. You don't necessarily want to repeat it if you can help it. Yeah. Google says that it's not going to penalize your site for having multiple keywords URL. Just turn off that garbage. Okay, exterior doors, right? So we got exterior doors, but the problem is in this scenario, we're still doing repeat, no bueno. Like we can't change this like we could do on the title, right? So this is actually a little bit more tricky. So you've got to think about, okay, is this client going to actually go after exterior doors? You need to structure it like this, but you can still name it the same, if that makes sense. So yeah, we'll get back into some of that too. The purpose of this is I want you guys to be aware that we use the optimization of the entities to go to the correct midpoint of the two entities, right? So when we optimize like that by lowercasing the second word, we're going to the midpoint exactly. And then that gives us the bucket of keywords that go to that midpoint. right? I think we did a jam board somewhere. Let me see. Why do people text me when I'm on the webinar? The hell is this?
Leave us alone.
Do I text them when they're on a webinar? No, I do not.
Not knowingly.
Although I should, that'd be funny. So when you're looking, let me pull this up 1 second. Do a slight review. Slight review. No, this one's better. Let's do this one. Ta-da! Okay. When we're looking at this and we're looking at the midpoint, when we lowercase this part of it, right, this vector goes straight to the midpoint of internet and marketing, right? So we go straight to the throat. But what I'm trying to teach you guys today, Drew, you're gonna need my personal number.
I texted it
What
to
I'm
him.
trying to teach you today is that these are existing entities that you can see, right? Like you can check the Wikipedia for national entities or products. You can check the Google business categories for, locally defined entities. And, you can kind of use that to get the buckets of keywords that you want. However, what I wanted you to learn today was that the name of your document is a potential entity. All it needs is a little bit of traffic love, right? So when you include this in the mix, when you get that there, it can become an entity, just like going back to this, it did here, right? When you type in beard growth, well, what the hell, right? Like it gets what it needs, right? It gets that machine ID. So Google's capable of learning and creating entities based on any named document in their index.
And Jimmy, that's a great point. I think that's where people have been confused, is because we've taught them that entities are answers that were used to train Google up to a certain point, where machine learning really started 2012 through 15, right? And when they started training, they
Yeah,
bought the answers, because remember, guys, machine learning is when you feed the system the answers rather than just the data to get the answers. So they started training these with machine learning, but those fixed points are not set in stone. All it was to get, and Jimmy has talked about this in other things, other webinars and other trainings we've had, that was just a starting point to get enough facts, enough stationary answers that the machine could start getting trained by the traffic and the impressions and the queries, which is what he's showing you now. And so now, Jimmy created the Wild Willie's Real Growth Supplement. This is an entity. You're looking at Google Trends. Google Trends pulls heavy, strong entities from the database. It doesn't mean and some of you guys have been asking us privately, it doesn't mean it's not an entity if it's not in Trends. And it doesn't mean it's not an entity if it's not even in Wikipedia. If it's in Wikipedia, Wikipedia used to be Freebase, which was the original data set, the entity data set that was purchased to make Google Knowledge Graphs. Okay, so it doesn't mean that these are the only entities in the world that you have to scale to determine. And this is what he was trying to show you, kind of snuck it out here. The Wild Willie's Beard Growth Supplement is an entity that we created through the technology that we have. Does that make sense? And you guys all can you can eventually become an entity with enough impressions and traffic. Did I say that all good, Jimmy?
yep, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. You can see,
So,
and that
yep.
actually, what's that?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say for PJ, that kind of answers your question, which was good. Yeah, Ellie, it's reverse machine learning, which I know you know a lot about, and it's moved into more. The training model is, again, I'm not even going to lecture you on this since you've got a degree in this stuff, but yeah, it's like the machine learning layer, is now, it's got enough momentum that they can use the other things. It's not just Markovian, Ellie. It's not just a Markovian chain. Now it's Markovian chains with constant feedback and machine learning from the impression engine and from the query. And Jimmy's just cracked all that stuff open. So what he's showing you, but if the impressions and the traffic are on the wrong things and they work against the entities, they're not going to give you that. It's really, really cool. When you guys start getting this, it's so, so cool.
Yes, this will be related to Keystone and Halo. But to get you guys the biggest bang, that's why we're teaching you optimization. But I don't like to just go in and say like, do this, this, and this. I want you guys to understand what you're doing, right? Like I don't want to have to optimize everybody's site. You know, I shouldn't. Well, there's just not enough time in the day, really. So, does that make sense with how this training is going? Do you guys like this so far? Is this along the lines? I mean, this is just the way I teach. You know, if you're looking for an easy button, I like to teach so you understand and then give you an easier button. I'm talking Chinese. Well, hopefully I'm not talking too much Chinese. This is all in regards to Google patents and things that they've been releasing for many years now. I'm just trying to bring it all together so you can understand what you do when you optimize or what things you need to look for. Yeah, interlinking strategy is going to be on the next Webby for sure, because that's going to be the next step, because those are also titles, right? Your anchor text of backlinks are also titles, but there's rules regarding them.
Jimmy, in a nutshell,
No,
what would you say? Because I can tell you guys, having studied and been mentored by Jimmy for, I believe it's a decade now. I don't think I'm lying when I say that. Um, the on-site structure is by far for me the hardest because it requires pattern matching on multiple levels. And so, you know, I think the best thing is having multiple examples and multiple, you know, just keep looking at it and having the diagram matching. This is why using these actual case studies when you bring an actual URL, that's personally helped me, Jimmy, is like to see you go, okay, here's the issue with this URL. And here's the way the skeleton key should work. Here's the correct structure, or here's what's causing the penalty. You know, like for example, you know, even the conversation with Douglas about the, you know, the shower head. You know, he says they're being repeated on one part of the page, but there's a majority of that site is not actually repeating um, the entity. It's not actually repeating the keyword in several parts of it. So I think seeing more and more examples of what exactly that works. Bradley is saying, I'm still unclear on how this applies to local geo pages. Keyword plus city 1, keyword plus city 2, keyword plus city 3, repeat, repeat, repeat. So Bradley's working on, for example, local stuff.
yeah,
So
and
these guys,
you can get rankings with stuff based on what you're trying to go after, right? But understanding how that kind of comes together is a little bit different, right? Like if you guys want to go rank for keyword geo, keyword geo, keyword geo, you could just do flat silo all the way across. Just don't repeat that geo, but it has to be a flat silo, right?
okay,
Because
so
that name of that document only means that you can't deviate.
right. And so when you say flat silo, can you be very specific for, I know what you mean, but this question has come up quite a bit during the week in the chat room and other locations. What exactly do you mean with a flat silo? That means that you're not building deep, so you can't violate the rules because you're not stacking the penalty.
When you go to this layer and that's all you're staying to, it's a flat silo, right? You're not going 2 deep, 3 deep, 4 deep, 5 deep,
Yep.
right? So that's when it becomes an issue, because there's a different way to do this using categorization. So I'll just give you guys this for now, right? So let's say you wanted to, let's just do a quick geo site, right? It could be very easy. I live in Texas. And then let's say I want to rank for SEO, right? I don't know anything about entities. Let's just say I
Right.
did this, right? Now we're going to have some other stuff. And let's say we're going to do social media marketing. Now, when you're on this page, right here, what do you guys think the name of this document should be? So we're at the Texas level right now, but we're also going to use it as categorization. What should be the name of this document that makes the most sense? It's going to be like this. I like to name it the same as location. So if we do Texas dash brand, that's how I would name this document, because that is Texas. Now, let me ask you this. Do you give a crap whatsoever about ranking for Texas by itself? I don't. Tell you that much
Generally
right now.
not.
Right? So on here, now this is how I would do this one, right? I'll take this one here. Now, what should be the name of this document? What do you think I would pick? Joel, think about what you want to rank for on some of these fronts. Yeah, there you go. Social media marketing, right? I want to rank for that. I don't care about, like, Texas keyword, right? I'm going to rank for this. You come in and you do, I'm going to name it what I name it, because that's what I really want to rank for. Just like that, right? So let's talk about impression burn. We'll go into this real quick just so you understand what a backlink is. There was a patent
Excellent.
a long time ago, maybe last May-ish.
Yeah.
In this patent that Google refers to, they no longer count the clicks from anything that's not a Google property. So what that means is the way that a backlink operates is very similar to when you do a search on the SERPs. Let's say I build a press release and I link to my website, I don't know, say social media marketing -brand. And let's say I had 10 people go through that backlink and click it to go to the website because it was a super awesome press release. Now, prior to this update that they rolled out, if 10 people went through and clicked and went to the website, they're like, check out this social media marketing, all 10 clicks would count. Now, post update, even if 10 go through, only one counts now. That's a problem.
Oh, yes.
Because what does that mean if it's not a Google to Google property? What does Google care about right now based on the scroll update? As we discussed earlier, CTR. Right? So this could be a problem. Now let's think about how impression burn works. If that's the case, and they're only going to count one of the 10 people that go through, and you build a whole bunch of backlinks, when a person goes to the page, it operates just like how we do a search. It creates an impression, right? But if they're only going to count one click, then we've got issues. Because it creates what's known as impression burn. Impression burn lowers your click-through rate because you get a whole crap ton of impressions and your click-through rate's not at a specific percentage. It will cause it to lose its ranking. Now, when we talk about this, what I like to do if I were to backlink or to PPC to something, where am I going to send that traffic based on these two URLs? No, not the page you want to rank. I'm going to send it to my categorization page. I'm going to send it to here.
The centroid.
Because when we're in this centroid, what is it doing? It's classifying the documents in it just like an entity is for keywords that are assigned to it. Except in the Bayesian clustering, it's more geared towards website. So it's like kind of shifting it. So it goes search to entity to the documents, which then get another categorization, right? It's kind of hard to visualize, but if you think about this, this would be your categorization. And it serves the purpose because you have the clustering of documents underneath it, right? In this instance, we have SEO. In this instance, we have social media marketing. So when we consider that, what I like to do when I'm on the Texas page is go in and I'm going to link to my social media marketing page. I'm going to do social media marketing because it's the word I want to rank for. So when you come in and you have this set up, I don't care if Texas impression burns because I'm not trying to rank for Texas. But it also meets that clustering idea that happens on the website, which gives us the centroid point. So it becomes very highly relevant for Texas as the new centroid, but it's more geared to push social media marketing. And yes, if you were part of Green Arrow, you can use this to rank very easily and quickly.
Yep.
So, but what normally happens is SEOs in their mind, they're like, I want to rank for this. So they're going to put all of their focus on this page. But generally, if they're just doing backlinks and things like that, they're going to cause a natural impression burn because they're not aware of some of these patents and updates that have happened. So when you see this in the SEO forums and stuff, you'll see sites that just utterly tank. And generally, it could be several factors, but either repeating stuff in your titles or there's been impression burn caused from backlinks. It's usually one of the two. So
This is your best explanation ever. This was really good. Guys, come back and I mean, if you feel confused right now, guys, just come back and watch this. We'll go over this together, and then we'll just keep doing these rules out because it just takes practice.
yeah. So
There's a great question from
what?
PJ related to this about iframes.
Mm-hmm.
Does an iframe eliminate impression burn?
No, it does not.
Definitely not.
You have
Good
to be
question.
careful with the way that they read that.
Yeah.
Prior to that update where it wasn't focused on CTR, it was beautiful. You could rank the crap out of stuff.
Yeah.
Not really build any links. It was
Yeah,
wonderful.
like that old iframe punch thing that we were doing like 6 years ago. Now you have to look at it completely differently.
Yeah, it's like that one was super awesome.
It worked when it worked. It was awesome.
Yeah. So now you probably could do that, but you're going to adjust it based on your categorization that you do on the website.
Wow.
And I break it down like this. Obviously, you could do more complex titles and things to get other keywords to rank, but I just wanted to break this down simply so you guys understand why that makes sense, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. Martin has a relevant question too. So when you say impression count does not count Google to Google, this means Google Ads, correct, as well?
Yeah. In Google Ads, it's a little bit different because they have what's called, I believe it's ad rank.
Yes, it's ad rank. We printed that
In
out, remember?
ad rank, how does that work? Like ad rank, if you think about PPC for a moment, what happens is people bid on keywords and they're bidding on this keyword because they want to get that traffic, but nobody's clicking on their ad. But as the searches happen, Google notices like, oh, yeah, and nobody really likes your ad. You better change your title or something like that. And so what happens is that ad rank score lowers. In order for them to get that placement, they have to increase their bid to get that placement, right? So CTR is even what occurs in the ad space in general. The more interaction they get with the ad, they raise that relevancy score of the ad rank, which means it lowers your cost per click or your ACoS.
Exactly.
So there's things to consider with that, but it's all just a big PPC engine.
Are you seeing the matrix there, Martin, on that one? Because they are related topics. Yeah.
Yeah, they're related. I mean, whether you're doing, no matter what type of marketing you're doing, you're still bound. SEOs, unfortunately, we have to deal with the algorithms, but some of this can translate over to whether you use PPC or other metrics. Like if we go back to this example, what was that search term? Oh, where do you think they might have put their attention in this URL? Interesting. So things to consider with the sites that you're working on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, impression. I mean, you can kind of see it. I mean, I've done so much testing with traffic, it's not even funny. I've done over 7 years of it now,
Yeah.
every day.
Ruthless.
Every little thing that you could possibly test, I've probably done it.
Tens of millions of dollars in time and money.
Yeah, we burned a lot.
Literally, guys. Like I'm not exaggerating. No tall tales here. Just
All in
wow.
the name of research.
Yeah.
Maybe next time we should just do something simple like how many goldfish make a happy tank or something. Get a government thing.
What? I don't know.
Sorry, should
I
have
don't know
said
the
that out
answer to
loud.
that question. No,
Yeah.
you haven't slept in 24 hours. You're fine.
So, anyways, with this, I just want to kind of leave some of these tidbits with you before the holiday here. I hope you guys have a good Christmas and that you spend some time with your family and loved ones. We really appreciate all of you being with us and going on this journey with us. And
Yes,
hopefully
we
you guys
do.
are liking this. But I'm just trying to teach you what I know. So hopefully I'm explaining it in a good way. But that's why we have the Q&A sheet. If there's something that wasn't quite clear on any of these webinars, drop it in and we'll try to get those answered before the next webinar. And with that,
Yep.
just
And
say
things are
Merry
gonna.
Christmas and Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year.
Thank you. Thank you. And as we heat up in the new year, we'll plan something in January. We haven't got that established yet. For those of you who are getting it, I see the penny dropping for many of you. There's like these eureka moments, and I know exactly what you're experiencing. That's awesome. And for those of you who are still feeling a little dizzy or not quite there, I promise you, once you go through this and watch the replay and start doing practicing and question and bounce it off, the penny will drop. And to be 100% honest, on really complex things like directories and things that are big thinking, I couldn't possibly decrypt them. And I've been studying with them for a decade. So it's okay to not know. And more and more people get it, we'll help each other within the on-site stuff specifically is becoming more and more important. And I really do hope you take time with your family and have a great Christmas. And thank you all very, very much. Ellie, thank you also for being here. It was really, really helpful. And yeah, so we look forward to seeing you. And I'll keep updating the chat room, keep updating the FAQs, even if you have those random moments where I wonder what Jimmy meant when he said this, right? Well, just drop it in the FAQ. When in doubt, drop it in the FAQ, okay? And then put your name, and we're going to get to it. Thanks, guys. Happy holidays. And Jimmy, thanks for taking time. Appreciate it. People are getting much clearer.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, let me ask one last question. Was this helpful for you guys? Like, is this putting the puzzle pieces in for you?
Guys, give us a 1 for clear and 2 for still a bit fuzzy. And 3 for I have no idea what the actual. Okay, it's okay for if it's a 3, it's okay because I'm not going to single you out. I'm just going to be aware. Yeah, I got you, Paul. Paul says he's really visual. He's voting back your drawing pen. Probably
Yeah,
for
we'll
the
try
new
to.
year, we'll have more. Yeah, we'll have more drawing thing for the new year. Jimmy's been
If I
like,
have to, I'll break out the whiteboard and set up the camera.
yeah, yeah. And so just know, Paul, that you're here at the very beginning, really. So we'll get you I'm a diagrammatic person. I've had the blessing of, being able to hang out with Jimmy and just like we had the whiteboard pretty much constantly, right, Jimmy? It's like
Oh yeah, you can't
drawing,
have an
drawing.
office without a whiteboard.
No,
It's just
especially
not an
around
office.
you. especially around you.
You know what I would like? I would like a room. One of these days I'm going to do it where you do the chalkboard stuff all around the room. I'll just go
Yeah.
scribble on every wall.
Oh yeah, that's totally you. It's like you're like the John Nash, drawing on those clear plastic things. Yeah. But you guys, well, there, all the tools are coming, and I want to thank you guys for being here. I do have to say this without sounding cultish, because that's not my intent, but just working on this particular stuff, it actually does, in this particular case, you are literally in an elite kind of percentage of people that are willing to go into this stuff, willing to think things through. That your MO is not like, okay, let's buy 2,000 links and let's go to Fiverr and do this and let's do that, and just, you're actually thinking through it, and it's going to pay off. And I'm really excited for everybody here. Thanks, guys. Drew's like, life is the cult then. Yeah, it is the school of hard knocks. All right,
All
guys,
right,
I'm
you
gonna
guys.
I'm gonna jump off. Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you after Christmas. Drive safely over the New Year's if you're gonna be drinking. Don't want to lose any of you
Yeah.
guys. All
No
right.
drinking and driving.
That's right. Thanks, guys. Blessings.